I could sort of Photoshop myself, like, on a broom.
Yeah.
Tonight, let's gaze at the moon and bathe. Werewolf for mitzvah, spooky, scary. Boys becoming men, men becoming wolves. Werewolf for mitzvah, spooky, scary. Boys becoming men, men becoming wolves.
Alright, this is a very special Halloween episode of ABC's film. I'm dressed as a witch, Alex is dressed as Saddam Hussein, and we're going to be watching the movie Creepshow. It's a collaboration between George A. Romero and Stephen King. I used to watch it a lot as a kid and I used to love it. It was just like creepy in all the great ways, but now I'm sure in retrospect it's going to be hammy as hell and poorly acted and like shitely directed, but that's going to be great as well. So hopefully it is good and Alex enjoys it, and we'll see you after the jump.
Alright, we just finished watching Creepshow. That was a horror anthology by George Romero and written by Stephen King. I thought it was boring as crap. What did you think of it, Barry?
I thought it started off promising, it peaked almost exactly at the midway point, and then it didn't even gradually get worse from there, it just went straight down.
My feeling about it was, because I knew there was 5 stories in it, I was like, I watched the first one, I thought it might get better later on. I watched the second one, thought it might get better later on. Once we got to the third one, I thought this ain't getting better.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go through one by one and talk about what we thought about it. So, swipe.
So right, Father's Day starts off in a drawing room. It's his family, and Ed Harris is the daughter's or the youngest member of the family. I'm not entirely sure how she's related to the rest of them, but he's her new husband, and they're telling him the story about how their aunt murdered her father.
She bashed her father's head in with a marble ashtray.
So rumor has it.
The aunt murders him with an ashtray because he wants a cake. And
yeah,
she didn't make him the cake quick
It's all
enough.
like, I want my cake.
Really over the top.
Yeah.
Happy Father's
She goes to the grave.
Back to present day.
Yeah, back to the present day. The aunt turns up at the house. She goes to the grave. The ghost comes out of the ground, murders her. Ed Harris and the wife, his wife, they're having a little dance. Then he decides to go out for a cigarette. Then the ghoul murders him as well. Then the ghoul comes into the house and murders everyone else.
Mrs. Bell.
That's pretty much it.
I was expecting there to be more of like a
reason
more of
for
a
him
plot,
coming back.
more of kind of a plot development through the thing, rather
Yeah.
than just he's coming back to murder people. I mean, he gets his cake in the end, which is the other sister's head
Yeah.
with a bit of topping on it.
It's Father's Day, and I got my cake. Happy Father's Day.
It's not explicitly scary, not explicitly creepy either. There's nothing creepy about it. Like, you know, the mask that he's wearing is slightly disgusting.
It is
like,
definitely disgusting because it's got the dirt in the eyes and
and it's
stuff
got
like
like
that. and
kind of like maggoty
kind of
stuff.
makes you-
And
But I think what
entrails.
made it scary as a kid is the constant shouting.
Yeah.
They're like, "Where's my cake?" and all that. That sent shivers down my spine.
Yeah. supposed to be taking care of?
I don't need you. I said I don't need you.
You bitch! What do you think I've got you here for? You're just like all the others. You're nothing but a bunch of vultures.
The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrill is the story of a farmer called Geordie Verrill, who's played by Stephen King, and he is played cartoony, like Looney Tunes sort of level of cartoony, like, oh my god, what's all that about? He's like, oh, Geordie Verrill, you lunkhead. He's out in his farm. He doesn't really seem to be doing much, but a meteor comes overhead, smashes into one of the fields, and he's like, oh my gosh, I bet I can make loads of money for that one. Then he breaks it in half.
No, he pours some water on it, and then for some reason...
some water on it so he can pick it up, and then it breaks in half. And then he's like, oh, you lunkhead, now you can't get so much money for it. But he's touched it by that point, and his finger starts growing zits on it, and he starts sucking on his finger, and he goes back to his house. Loads of grass starts growing outside everywhere that the meteor has touched. And then he goes back to his house, looks at his finger, and there's grass on it. And then he thinks, oh no, you nunkhead, you've put it in your mouth. And he looks in his mouth, and he turns into grass. That's it.
Stephen King becomes the Swamp Man.
He gradually looks at more and more parts of his body, and they've all turned to grass. There's a hilarious moment where he's like, oh no, not my penis.
Oh no, not there!
But he seemed to have like quite a depressing life, really.
Yeah,
like
definitely. I mean,
his apartment was in disrepair.
Yeah.
Like, he seemed quite lonely. He was drinking a lot. He was always like, "Oh, you're such an idiot." Like, obviously, he's been told he's an idiot throughout his entire life.
Yeah.
He's kind of taken that on board, probably because of the monobrow and the fact that he was an idiot.
Yeah, yeah.
So. But anyway, as a piece of body horror, because the prosthetics or the makeup, it didn't look particularly convincing.
And it's very cartoony, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not like The Fly.
It's like someone put on like a green Santa beard.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like. It wasn't very good.
No.
But not scary, not interesting. I think this is probably the worst one.
I feel that this was the most entertaining because it fell into like
Camp.
so bad.
It's
so
so
bad it's good.
yeah.
So it's definitely the one where I was just kind of like smiling the most.
Who sought to take profits from the early advances. Pork belly prices and most livestock prices fell on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. In quiet trading...
Did you think Stephen King was bad at acting? Or do you think that's exactly what they were going for?
I've seen him in other stuff too.
So have I, and he was alright.
It's definitely what he was going for.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, the fact that it was so over the top hides the bad acting.
I think that's absolutely the one he got him to play that character, in my opinion anyway. It's like he couldn't do like a serious dramatic role.
Yeah.
Like, spoiler alert, the only one that's got good acting is the third one. The rest are kind of uneven.
Yeah. It's also the one where you recognise the people in it.
Yeah. So they got him to play the most over-the-top, schlockiest character they could, because everyone knows that Stephen King is not a particularly good actor.
Yeah.
Good writer though, but not a good actor.
But you farmers are going to love this. The current 30-day forecast released by the U.S. Meteorological Station in Portland calls for moderating temperatures and lots of rain. Castle County is going to turn green so fast in the next month that it's going to be almost miraculous.
And then the final shot, which is kind of interesting, is it shows outside and everything in the whole area is also turned into grass. I should note, it's kind of like alien grass. It's not like... It's not going to like solve the world's problems by like
green.
Rapid growth.
We don't know actually. It could be like it takes over stuff, but we don't. It's like an invasive species that we don't know if it has any special properties.
Yeah.
It's just like long, thin green grass that grows really quickly.
Very, like
Yeah.
I can't think what it is, but there's something in my head that I keep thinking is like that, but that's going to be useless.
Moss.
No, it's like a toy.
Yeah, just a chibi pet? Chibi pet?
Yeah, chia.
Well, obviously the implication of the last shot is that eventually the grass is going to grow out and cover everyone up.
Yeah, everybody.
Everyone will be a grass person, but
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't know like if that's a good thing or not, because he still seemed perfectly functional at the end there. We're still kind of wandering around going, oh.
Until he shot himself.
Yeah, but you know, we could.
But he did manage to shoot himself. What did he say at the end? Because I didn't quite catch it because it was very mumbly. Was he saying you're going to aim right for the first time, or you're going to get this right for the first time?
I don't know. That's quite a sad like little detail, really. If
Yeah,
that was the case.
Let my luck begin. Just this once. Please, God. Just this once.
Honestly, there was so much mumbling throughout the entire thing that I found it hard to understand a lot of the characters.
It was very, very hard to understand sometimes.
I don't think it was just being poorly mixed either. I think George Romero probably has a problem making people speak clearly on film. No, mumble. So, something to tide you over. So Ted Danson's in his apartment, he's watching TV, all of a sudden there's a knock at the door, Leslie Nielsen turns up. Leslie Nielsen is all like, oh mate, you've been fucking my wife.
You know, you gotta be grateful to us. You know that? I mean, if you ever loved her, you don't now.
And Leslie Nielsen's like, I've got a tape for you. He puts the tape down, presses play on the tape, it's his wife.
Got something I want you to hear.
If you don't come, then please, Harry, please come.
I had to stop it there. I couldn't bear to record anymore.
So Ted Danson's like, I better go with you and, you know, save your wife who I'm in love with. So they drive to a beach, which Leslie Nielsen's character owns, and then says to Ted Danson, if you want to see my wife again, you've got to bury yourself up to your head, which after some commotion he does. And then, so Ted Danson's kind of trapped there, a crab turns up and the crab kind of freaks him out a bit, and then Leslie Nielsen comes back with a TV with a really long extension cord.
Well, I have something here, Harry. Take your mind off of it.
Come on, Richard, please.
It's showtime!
Becky?
But anyway, they're both buried up to their heads. Long story short, they both drown. Leslie Nielsen is back at his house, he's relaxing. Then he goes in the shower. Well, there's some kind of commotion going on outside in his apartment.
Yeah.
So he's like...
Shadows moving around.
Shadows moving around. You see shots of fish people's feet.
Yeah.
Fishy people, fishy looking people.
They've got seaweed on them. It's like the old Ghosts and Sheets,
Yeah.
but with seaweeds as well.
So the audience obviously is like, I wonder who those people could be.
Yeah, very
Subtle.
yeah,
Subtle.
I couldn't figure it out.
What? I'll shoot you dead!
So anyway, they abduct Leslie Nielsen. They bury him up to his head in the beach. He gets drowned by the... Well, implication is at the end that he gets drowned by the tide. And that's the end of the story. It's ironic, really, isn't it?
No.
Because he got killed the same way he killed other people. So it is ironic.
Yeah, but I mean, I always figure like irony should be not so purposeful.
What do you mean?
Like it's not necessarily an accident, but...
But if a serial killer got killed by a serial killer, that would be ironic.
But if the serial killer killed him because he was a serial killer, I don't think it would be. Only if it kind of just happened. He was just like, I'm going to kill that guy, and then it turned out he was a serial killer. It'd be like, huh, ironic.
But what, Barry, if you needed a knife and you had 10,000 spoons?
Well, that's just, I mean, it's written in stone, isn't it?
Absolutely, that's ironic.
Yeah. So,
Don't you think?
It's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid.
this one was definitely the best.
Up until the halfway point. I feel like once...
I think, no, up until, it should have ended just with Ted Danson being killed. Then
Yeah,
it
I
would have just
agree.
been like this weird revenge story. But then once he got home and suddenly they were like ghosts.
I was wondering where the supernatural part was going to come in because I thought it seemed like it might be quite a good little thriller thing going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Not, thriller Michael Jackson, like an actual thriller episode rather than explicitly supernatural.
Yeah. I suppose it wouldn't have fit with the theme of the film,
No, absolutely.
but it would have been a much better, much tighter short
Yeah.
if it was just... That would have been horrific if that was the end of it.
So I was like wondering throughout the first part, are they going to come back as fish people? And lo and behold, they come back as fish people. So there's no real surprise there, you know.
No, not at all.
Well acted though.
Yeah, very well acted.
I think it's the, like I said before, it's the only one that could be described as being competently acted.
I can hold my breath for a long time.
I'm going to settle in for this one.
Alright, so The Crate is a story of a guy who's at a party with all of his mates, and his wife's there, and his wife's a real bitch. You know, she's that woman who's just like, you know, oh, if you were a real man, you'd be able to get me a drink. And he keeps imagining killing her.
So-called academics make the shark in Jaws look like fucking Flipper.
Wilma!
Husband's calling you, Billy. Oh, God, Henry, what's wrong now?
Not a thing, Wilma. Everything's just fine.
Meanwhile, back at the university where they all work, a janitor has uncovered the crate, which is underneath some stairs, and nobody's seen it before because it is covered by the grate.
And no one has seen it for 140 years
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
It's just kind of been sat there.
Even whoever put the grate in, because it's clearly a new
Yeah.
grate as well, just didn't, or maybe they just didn't care.
Yeah.
But anyway, the janitor calls another professor, not the one with the wife.
What'd you look under here anyway? Oh, I flipped a quarter trying to decide if I should buff the second floor hallway first or wash the lab windows. Only when it came down, I missed it. They rolled under here. Oh.
What does the crate say, Barry? Why are they interested in
The
that?
crate doesn't speak. So, they look at the crate and it says June 19th, 1834, delivered to Hembrook University, care of Julia something, right? I hope that's right.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
One would think.
You don't really know. So they take it to the lab and they pry it open, but as they're prying it open, the janitor is like, I don't think this is a good idea, so you know he's going to make it to the end. Professor Man runs off and runs into a guy who looks suspiciously like Paul Giamatti, but we looked it up and it wasn't. And he says, you gotta help me, and eventually, when they go back to under the stairs, because the gorilla is... It's not actually a gorilla, but
It's a toothy gorilla.
Yeah. Because the gorilla just likes to live under the stairs, and Paul Giamatti's sort of poking around under there. So then the professor runs off to the professor with a bad wife. First professor stays there, and the professor with a bad wife, played by Hal Halbrook, he goes to have a look, finds out what's going on, sort of figures it all out and decides to leave a note for his wife.
But ever since Dexter's wife died, he's had problems coping with certain young female grad students. He's been able to cover up several incidents, but this one looks very serious.
She meets up with him and he says, you have to go look in that corner, that's where the girl is, and she goes into the corner and nothing happens, and you're like, oh my god, where's Gorilla gone? The monster doesn't wake up, but then the monster does wake up.
And I swear to God, if you ever touch
So the monster pulls her into the crate, he closes the crate, very gingerly puts the padlock back on, drags the crate out to his car, puts it in the boot with no issue, drives off to a quarry, lobs it into this quarry that's filled with water so that the creature will drown. And then he goes back to the first professor, he explains to him what's happened, and he has said, there's no bodies, I've cleaned up all of the evidence, no need to worry mate, let's play chess.
And of course that I expect to whip your ass at chess twice a week for the rest of our lives.
Well, we'll have to see about that, won't we?
So it was really boring, Barry. Like, this was like 40 minutes long, I swear, and not a great deal happened.
And it needed to be 15.
It really could have been as well. There were long scenes in the middle where this guy was trying to convince the service guy to go and look under the stairs, and it was like 10 minutes long. It's oh, we've got to get the flashlight. Oh, we've got to get a wrench.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to hang around here for a little bit and mumble at each other.
But then it was almost exactly the same with the student.
Yeah.
And then almost exactly the same with Bad Wife. You know, so it's just sort of the same thing. And like when you've got something that's twice the length of a Twilight Zone episode with like a third of the story.
And no payoff whatsoever.
Yeah.
If you'd found out more about the expedition, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yeah, if there was like a flashback.
Some kind of like
that,
little backstory, like, oh, you know, that expedition disappeared. No one knew what happened to the people. Or something like that. I'm thinking about it now. You could cut out the entirety of the first party scene. You could have started where the other professor's in the college and, you know, his wife's berating him like, oh, you know, if you're a real man, when she goes away for like the entire episode.
Yeah, I think she just goes off to one of her meetings because she comes back drunk.
Yeah, you can do that characterization really quickly.
It's such a flat character. We all know it.
You haven't got to have a party scene for 10 minutes where she's going around going, oh, he's awful, he is.
Yeah.
Oh, Henry. What would you do without me?
I don't know, Billy.
I mean, you think they don't need to pad it, do they? Because I mean, the whole thing altogether is 2 hours long. So if you cut 20 minutes,
like a good anthology,
it'd still be a great.
Good short stories are snappy.
Yeah.
You know, they're really tightly scripted. A lot of the problems with a lot of the stories in here is that they're not very tightly scripted at all.
Yeah.
In this one, there's nothing to really show off, and there's no progression for the plot. You see the monster, like probably like a third of the way into it, and there's nothing really after that. There's no elaboration on the theme. It's just it kills more people.
Yeah, there's nothing scary about that monster either. Like with the previous ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they look hammy now.
Yeah.
But you can tell that they were going for scary. You know, like with Zombie Bernie Sanders and well, not necessarily Stephen King, but with Ted Danson and that kind of looks a little creepy, but it's hammy. This thing is just a Halloween costume.
The final story in the anthology is They're Creeping Up on You. Thankfully quite brisk at probably about 20 minutes, quarter of an hour long, which is a good thing because there's not really much to this one. So there's a guy, he's quite a rich guy, he lives in a very clean apartment, he doesn't like germs, he doesn't like bugs.
I know in this goddamn building, there's not gonna be any more damn bugs.
And it turns out he's quite a bad guy as well, because there's references in there from the wife of one of his employees who phones him.
I heard the shot.
Yes. George Genron told me old Norman went out with a bang.
How many men have you destroyed? How many men have you killed, you monster?
Only the stupid ones.
There's bugs everywhere, and then there's more bugs. Then more bugs turn up.
Yeah.
Then at one point he eats one of the bugs. The guy who runs the front desk, he comes up.
Don't you talk to me like that, you hear?
What way, Mr. Pratt?
Like I was crazy.
Oh, no, sir, Mr. Pratt, sir. I don't think you as crazy, not at all.
And he's like, yeah, I got told for some bugs. So
the serviceman, by the way, is presented exactly like Bindi Badgie for Red Dwarf fans out there.
Humans? The Vindelian people despise all humans. They are the vermin of the universe. Is that not right, Bindi Badgie? We did.
So anyway, the guy goes away, more bugs turn up, more bugs, suddenly there's bugs everywhere, squirming about all over the walls, squirming about all over him. So he goes inside like his bedroom, and then suddenly there's bugs in the bedroom. Then he falls into the bugs. Then the guy comes back and he's like, "Oh, you know, did those bugs get you?" Then bugs come out of him, and that's it.
Yeah. In short, as we were saying before we started recording, the story of this one is there's a man who doesn't like bugs, and then there's bugs.
Roaches are very hard to kill, and they're quick. They can creep up on you. They can creep up on you if you let them.
Somebody who doesn't like cockroaches would find this one the worst, because it is just like insert shots of cockroaches, like thousands and thousands of like you couldn't make this today, because like the deaths would have been in the hundreds of cockroaches.
Absolutely.
And it would just make your spine tingle if you didn't like looking at that sort of thing. So I think that's all they said. They were just like, let's have 15 minutes of loads of shots of bugs. That'll creep people out.
Must have been quite fun to make. Possibly, if you like.
No, it'd be horrible, because you'd just be paranoid for the rest of the day, wouldn't you? That you've got one in your
You'd
back
be
or
like,
something
yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
I grew up in Hell's Kitchen. Bugs everywhere. I know what to do with a bug when I see it. Spray it. Squash it.
But it does seem to be almost like they wanted to go for something about how bad capitalism and yuppieism is. Like there's elements of
just
that
a
in
fat
there.
cat, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just a fat cat, and he's like, oh, he's got his stock prices. He doesn't seem to have any close family or people he can call.
Yeah.
He's just in his very sparse room.
Yeah, this woman calls him up and says, "You made my husband commit suicide, you bastard," and he's just like,
I can't fire him because he's dead.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. There's a blackout, and he's like, if my company was in charge of the power, there wouldn't be any blackouts.
What the fuck? Another son of a bitch in blackout. If it is my power company, this would never happen.
I'm sure that
I think we must have missed something.
yeah, somebody's going to be watching this going like, no, it's clearly a metaphor for blah, 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 and it's so obvious and we just completely missed it.
Maybe, I think the cockroaches are supposed to be like the little people, maybe. That he likes to crush. Like he's been crushing them for his entire career.
But then the little people crush him, like because the janitor doesn't help him. Are we figuring this out?
And then it turns out that he is just full of little people.
Yeah, he's just he is the little people.
He is the little people. He is the little cockroaches who he despises.
Yeah, is it like where Fight Club got its idea from? You know,
possibly.
Don't fuck with the little people or cockroaches.
Don't fuck with the cockroaches.
Yeah.
Bastard.
So that was our Halloween episode of ABC's film. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We only enjoyed little bits of the film. It's a hard one to talk about afterwards as well, so apologise if we just seem like we're not enjoying it that much, because we weren't.
If there's one episode of ours you shouldn't watch, it's this one.
I'll put that at the beginning.
Yeah.
No, I won't.
Don't watch it, it's awful.
Yeah, I'll just leave it to the end.
The next day what happened? The Toma didn't teach. I got up in front of everyone to give my little speech. Then my teeth turned into fangs and my nails into claws. And I nearly dropped the Torah when my hands turned into paws. I growled and I roared and my rabbi did as well. It was a rocking werewolf zoo at Temple Beth Emmanuel.
I wonder if I managed to make that look good.
No. It's gonna be a fucking mess.